All right, let's see. So I am a photographer, a storyteller. I feel like that's what everyone says. It's easy to say that you're a storyteller. It goes beyond that for me. I never, in my wildest dreams, thought that I would be a photographer, ever. I mean, it just, you know, when I was growing up, I never picked up the camera with a curiosity that led me to believe it would be something I would be doing later in life. I was always artsy, but it was usually through dance, stage performance, but never through the camera. It was definitely a surprise for me. It happened my senior year of high school. That's when I discovered photography. That was it. I mean, it was clear as day. It was my art class. There was an announcement about a photography contest. And I had my mother's camera, but at the time my father, he lent me an older film camera, which I didn't know how to use. You know, I didn't understand aperture, I didn't understand speed, ISO, any of that stuff. But I remember having this idea to photograph one of my girlfriends as an angel that had fallen from heaven to earth. And I took some tools, some like cheap Halloween angel wings, lots of glitter, and I shot her with my best friend Alva glass in a wooded area near the condominium I was living at in Atlanta, Smyrna, Georgia. So it was fun to me just to conceptualize and, you know, have this idea and somehow, that's the thing about photography. It's, you're responsible for creating these feelings, not feelings. There's a responsibility. I mean, you are in control over what people see, and I mean, it could be perceived 100 million different ways, but anyway, so I always as a child loved this whole fantastical idea of fairies and, you know, just something pretty. But the photos, they didn't come out right. I didn't have the speed set up or something. They were very blurry. I used it to my advantage. I remember thinking, well, this angel is distraught as she plummeted from heaven to earth, and, you know, she's there in the thicket, lost. I remember I had to write something. I love writing, by the way. But I remember the joy that I found in having these two photos. And there was an exhibition in a small community center or theater. All the photos were put up on the walls. And the to be anonymous there, you know, they see photo by Shannon Renfro, no one knew who I was. And just seeing people stop and, you know, cock their heads to the side and study your work and try to figure out what's going through their heads, or how are they perceiving it, or what do they see, or what does it do to them. So that's how it started when I was 17, 18 years old. It started just as an accident. I used to take the camera and set it on self-timer and go and shoot things. But there was a particular moment during an ice storm, and I went into the wooded area nearby, taking some photos, and all the tree branches were covered in ice. And all of a sudden, one of the branches ahead of me, just a big branch, cracked and tumbled to the ground. And I remember, I was so close to that, but there was no fear. It was as if the camera somehow gave you a supernatural strength and armor. I don't know. I know maybe some people have described it that way before. I wouldn't discover this until I actually deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan to understand that sometimes when you're behind the lens, you lose yourself and you don't really feel like you're there. It could be a dangerous thing, but you feel safe. The camera made me feel safe. Lots of times, if I knew I wanted to cry, or if I felt scared, bringing the camera to my eye, it was a way that I could hide. Hide behind the camera. Tell stories through images. It's so important. And yeah, anyway.